So when Trump was being investigated for the Russian collusion, when he was insisting for Putin to hack into Hillary Clinton's emails and to leak them out, and Roger Stone was gonna go to Julian Assange and try to have access to the leaked out emails, and there was a Trump Tower meeting with a lady that said a Russian asset that was trying to get access to Hillary Clinton's hacked email in Trump Tower with Trump's son and Trump's son-in-law. When Robert Mueller started investigating when Russia used bots to interfere in the 2016 election, and you gotta understand, Trump around that time also had a connection with the Russian mob. They launder money into his condominiums, and they parked it, and then they sold it. So Trump had associates that were connected to the Russian mob, and they were trying to get a Moscow tower. So Trump had his heart set on the Moscow tower in 2016, but also he was in the pocket of ExxonMobil to get the sanctions raised off of Russia when Russia invaded Crimea. When Russia invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea under the Obama administration, they imposed sanctions on Russia. So Trump was lobbied by Exxon to raise sanctions off of Russia and to bridge Exxon back into the Russian Arctic. And so Trump was in the pocket of Exxon. And so he used Kash Patel and David Nunes, Congressman David Nunes, to be moles inside the committee that was investigating the Trump-Russian collusion. And so between Kash Patel and David Nunes, they leaked out intel of the committee investigating the Russian collusion to Trump, and allowed Trump to obstruct the Robert Mueller report when Sessions recused himself. So Trump used Nunes as a mole and Kash Patel as a mole, spies within the committee, to give Trump the upper hand as Trump obstructed the committee hearings. Trump fired Comey, then he started appointing Rosenstein, Whitaker, and eventually Bill Barr to redact all the documents and to get away and obstruct Robert Mueller from having any leeway into further investigating Russia, because Trump was always in the pocket of Exxon. And Trump was trying to get a Moscow tower. So Trump was a corrupt businessman, and that was the true reason why he was willing to lay down with Russia, to enrich himself and Exxon, Rex Tillerson, and the Exxon board members. And so it's against the law for the president to interfere in that investigation by using the co-chair, David Nunes, as a mole to leak out intel to Trump, the target of the investigation. And so between David Nunes and Kash Patel, They were spying on behalf of Trump and giving Trump the upper hand to obstruct the Robert Mueller report, which is a crime. So after Trump obstructed it, the committee and Robert Mueller, Trump was also being investigated for selling weapons to the president of Egypt and pocketing $10 million for himself, straight from the president of Egypt, laundering $10 million into Trump's pocket to sell Pentagon weapons to Egypt. So Trump repositioned Kash Patel as an attorney of the Justice Department within the Pentagon to obstruct that investigation and to spy and try to hide the dirt that could implicate Trump money laundering to sell weapons illegally and pocket money personally from the sale of Pentagon weapons to the president of Egypt. So Kash Patel was repositioned as a mole and as a dirty crony lawyer that obstructed that investigation of Trump laundering $10 million personally from the president of Egypt into Trump's pockets. And at the same time, Trump was plotting to steal the 2020 elections. So when Trump's supporters raided the Capitol, Trump was using Kash Patel inside the Pentagon to try to convince Nancy Pelosi to accept Trump sending Pentagon soldiers to the Capitol. And what they had intention, Trump and Kash Patel, was to deploy the military at the Capitol and to use the military to antagonize Congress to send it back to the swing states, while Giuliani tried to appoint self-faked delegates to give Trump a victory for 2020. It was a coup d'etat that Trump and Kash Patel was up to. And so for that, it didn't work out the way Trump wanted it. And so Trump got scared. And now he can face treason for trying to overthrow the government. He can face corruption charges for obstructing the Robert Mueller report. And so him and David Nunes and Kash Patel were scared. So Trump was also facing a Eugene Carroll rape charge in New Jersey, in New York, in the Southern District of New York. And he was facing bank fraud, real estate fraud, tax evasion in New York. He was always a racketeer in real estate. So on top of that, he was trying to overthrow the government. So he ran scared to Mar-a-Lago with a bunch of classified papers. That it was all the dirt that he did in his first administration, the unredacted Robert Mueller documents, everything that he did with Kash Patel Nunes, anything that can implicate him with a conspiracy, a racketeering conspiracy, he ran to Mar-a-Lago with papers to try to destroy papers, to try to give papers to his lawyers, and to try to destroy any incriminative evidence that can implicate him. And so after 2020, he gave Kash Patel a lot of money and made him part of Truth Social board member of his Truth Social network. So Kash Patel got rewarded with millions as Trump appointed him to be a board member on Truth Social, as well as David Nunes was the CEO of Truth Social. So that's the way Trump paid them off millions and rewarded them. financially. And now Trump is using a racketeering scheme, financial embezzlement, fraud, racketeering, money laundering. Because now in his second term in office, he's using Kash Patel to destroy any FBI files that can incriminate Trump in anything that can be charged to Trump in the second term. So Kash Patel is raiding all the archives of the FBI and trying to destroy anything that can implicate Trump in any crimes within his first administration and his second administration term. So Kash Patel has always been a dirty lawyer, a fixer. So in the second term, Trump is coming up with a crypto scheme. Him and Lutnick, his Secretary of Commerce. Because Trump couldn't get no more banks to lend him money for his real estate. So Trump decided to embezzle the Treasury Department through crypto companies, shell companies. So this is the way how the scheme works. He originally intended Bitcoin to be pegged to the Treasury. Because Bitcoin, you needed $1 million American dollars for one Bitcoin. So Trump was ambitious. He said, let's peg Bitcoin to the Treasury Department and then use his World Liberty crypto company externally to be pegged to Bitcoin, to the petrodollar. For Trump can go and racketeer with the Middle Eastern Arab countries, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kuwait, for his real estate. Because that's the only way that Trump can get access to money, because the banks don't want to lend him money. So he had to funnel money, petrodollar monies, through cryptos to make petrol deals with the Arab nations. And in return, they prop up real estate for him throughout the Middle East. Now, Bitcoin was too volatile because the up and down cycles of $1 million to one Bitcoin, it made investors too skeptical to invest because it was too leveraged. The Bitcoin was too leveraged. So Trump replaced it with a stablecoin company, another shell company, stablecoin. Now the stablecoin, you can peg $1 to one stablecoin. So Trump's World Liberty externally is being pegged to these crypto companies inside the Treasury Department, Bitcoin and stablecoin. And now Trump also created Stargate, a cyber project, a super cyber farm of supercomputers named Stargate through SoftBank, an Oracle, a Japanese bank that's funding this project. So in the development of that super farm computer, he put on the construction project management to oversee the construction development of that site. He put another CEO that had his own crypto company. So what Trump is planning to do with this Stargate is to farm cryptos. He's using these supercomputers to mine for cryptos. So now Trump is using the petrodollar, the American petrodollar, the world reserve currency that floats the petroleums of the world, and have nations abroad having to have reserve American currencies in order to trade energy, fossil fuels. So now Trump is using his tariff wars with Lutnick to target certain industries and to adversely take over those sectors for themselves in this Commonwealth fund that they funded with cryptos that was seized from drug dealers. They used that money to fund their own robber baron venture capitals. So now they're using Trump as tariff chief and commander to extort sectors of commerce, not only in this nation, but abroad in other nations. To do insider trading, to pirate other board positions in other corporations with their crypto companies. To adversely do insider trading and affect the markets up and down by inflicting tariffs on foreign nations' sector industries and their central banks and their sovereign governments. So now they're becoming robber barons behind this crypto Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme of their making. And all that this is, this meme coins, these meme cards, meme coins of Trump, these crypto coins of Trump, all it is a medium of exchange for money laundering. Because now Trump can affect the markets by tariffing globally. And he's propping up an oligarch robber baron conspiracy with himself and his close administrators, being led by Lutnick and his Secretary of the Treasury that Trump has appointed. So now they're ciphering off the Treasury Department to enrich themselves, personally to enrich themselves. And Trump uses this leverage adversely with Fox News, Murdoch, Business News to affect the markets, to affect the Wall Street reporting markets and the right-wing news of Fox Business News. And they're basically pirating their corporations, merging hostily and pirating the shares of corporations, using Trump as leverage, as chief of commander, by tariffing nations and their sectors of commerce, while Lutnick and his wealth fund and the oligarchs around him enrich themselves. And personally enrich themselves using the White House as leverage with this tariff ambitions of Trump. So they're using these cryptos as a medium of exchange. Perfect example how Trump is enriching himself in the Middle East by leveraging the oil trades to the petrodollar pegged to stablecoin and Bitcoin. And externally, Trump uses his world liberty to do this money laundering into Trump's real estate. They're out in the open. This is how Trump Jr. said, this is the only way we can get money for our real estate, because the traditional banks don't want to lend us money. So this crypto and meme coins is nothing but a medium of exchange, quid pro quos. It's payoff money. It's kickback money. It's protection racket money. Some sectors of commerce abroad rather pay Trump to alleviate their tariff burdens. And so Trump is like a mobster extorting his way globally through commerce, as long as they're willing to pay him kickback money and money launder through his cryptos. And he uses these payoffs to invest into his real estate. And it's basically a pump and dump scheme, because when Trump is out of office, Trump and Lutnick and the wealth fund that they created with these crypto schemes, all of that will be left pumped and dumped. And the taxpayers will have to pick up the debt burden of that through the Treasury, while they walk away as robber barons. And so this type of looting the Treasury Department, for one chief and commander, the president, to loot and make a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, money laundering, extortion, insider trading, to do that as chief and commander, and to use your global tariff wars to manage it, for it to serve your interests of enriching yourselves by extorting other nations abroad, Trump should be held liable in an international court, a tribunal, for his financial frauds of extorting nations with tariffs just to enrich themselves personally. He should be found guilty, and everything that he owns financially in real estate should be frozen and seized from him. And he should be financially tossed into prison for racketeering and embezzling the White House. So now you got his personal lawyers, Pam Bundy, and the Justice Department. You got Kash Patel looting the FBI files and destroying anything as he goes along that could implicate Trump as the FBI director, because Kash Patel is afraid of his own ass being implicated as a corrupt lawyer throughout his endeavor with Nunes in Trump's first term. So when Trump had the Crown Prince in his first term in the Oval Office selling the Crown Prince weapons, the Crown Prince was laundering money into Trump real estate in Saudi Arabia and gave Jared a portfolio to launder money incrementally through Jared into Trump real estate. The same way Trump took $10 million off the Egyptian president to sell Egypt weapons. So now Trump is in the business of personally pocketing money to sell weapons to other nations as chief of commander, to enrich himself and put money by selling weapons to sovereign nations. He's pocketing money off of it for himself. Trump is a corrupt. He's always been business corrupt. He's always been a corrupt businessman. And now he has leveraged the government and the most financial criminal corruption case in American history. Now, he's so convoluted about the oil interests that he's leveraging in the Middle East and through Exxon and Texaco, that he wants to take Canada as a territory. He wants to take Greenland as a territory in order to control the Arctic energies and pipelines and gas lines to flood energy into Europe. He's willing to annex Canada and Greenland for it. That's how ambitious he was. He tried to, in his first term, undermine Angela Merkel and Germany's Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines in order for Exxon to control Russian energy into Western Europe through Ukrainian pipelines. That's why he sent Giuliani over there when Putin lied to him about a stolen server in order to slow up sending weapons to Zelensky. He sent Giuliani over there, Trump, with two crony businessmen that were looking for energy deals. But Trump was trying to extort Zelensky for a laptop that didn't exist in Ukraine. The laptop was left by Hunter Biden in a computer shop, I believe in New York or in the United States. It was nowhere in Ukraine, but Trump is a klutz and he believed Putin, so he was trying to extort Zelensky. But what Trump was trying to do is undermine Germany's pipelines in order for Exxon to control Russian energy into Western Europe and eventually run pipelines into India and China. That's what Exxon had in mind behind Trump. To control the Russian energy going into Western Europe, India, and China. And Trump was trying to launder a lot of money into his real estate to bridge these deals. Trump is like an octopus with tentacles, accepting money from wherever it comes from. And he's using the White House as leverage. And this ambition of tariffs is just a scheme for him to launder money into his insider trading, extorting the markets for tribute. And they launder money to bypass his tariffs, to try to save their sectors. Trump launders extortion money from nations abroad and their banks and their corporations through his NFT cards, his cryptos of world liberties. And the thing, when you own your own crypto company, you have your own servers, your own hard drives that does the blockchain transactions. And so you can delete the hard drives when you're money laundering into your real estate. And that's exactly what Trump does with his world liberty. And so all this wealth fund that they created with Lutnick and Trump and the robber barons around them with this scheme of cryptos, it's going to be pumped and dumped when they step down. Trump is flirting with running for a third term because the getting is good. He even flirted with saying a fourth term. But when they leave the White House, they're going to pump and dump that wealth fund, the cryptos, because it would already been laundered into their holdings. And so the taxpayer will have to pick the debt burden plus the interest to pay for that Ponzi scheme, that pyramid scheme that they created with cryptos inside the Treasury Department. That's how corrupt this administration is. Speaker Johnson said he's doing it in the open. He's not hiding. So that's supposed to make it good? Because he's robbing this country in the open. He's not hiding. So for that, we should okay it as citizens and condone it. For that. Not only is Trump bankrupting this nation, he's getting the whole world to decouple from the American world reserve currency, because the world see how greedy America is with the gluttony of Trumpery. He's tariffing the global south 100%, Europe 50%, trying to annex Canada and Greenland, trying to get the Riviera, Gaza Strip for real estate deals. Netanyahu is bombing the Trump Heights, the Golan Heights, that he named after Trump, trying to expand and annex more territory off of Syria. Trump is trying to seize the Panama Canal. Before Trump went to the Middle East, he tried to flatter the Arab nations, said, oh, it's not the Persian Gulf, it's the Gulf of Arabia. Because they're giving him, plastering his name on buildings so they can launder money out of the petrol deals into Trump real estate through the buildings that they're giving Trump throughout the Middle East. And all of that is laundered through cryptos. And they hide all of that in tax havens and hide it away from the IRS. So this is not what Trump is doing. He is bankrupting this nation. Inflation is on the way up. The world is decoupling from the dollar. And pretty soon, we'll have hyperinflation and even a depression because of Trump. But he doesn't care because he thinks he's so rich. He lost sight that he feels that he's so rich that he made America great again. But the only one that's getting rich is him, while the whole nation is being bankrupt. And pretty soon, if he keeps it up for 3.5 years of his term, if he tries to impose himself for a third term, pretty soon this nation will be embargoed economically, global, by all nations on earth. This nation will be economically embargoed if he keeps on obsessing about tariffing every nation on earth. Globally, all nations will unite and embargo this nation economically. So this cannot be a norm. Speaker Johnson said, "Oh, he's doing it in the open, so that should make it okay." Meaning he's robbing us blind through the Treasury Department with his cryptos in the open, so that should make it okay. That should make it acceptable. This nation has to come to reckon to itself. Every nation, now he kicked out 18 million people off of health care. Everybody's experiencing higher inflation. Now he wants the Federal Reserve, because his tariff wars is pushing the whole world to a recession. Meaning that he's stagnating every nation on earth. But he's just enriching himself and Lucknick and this wealth fund, this Ponzi scheme of this robber baron society that encircles themselves around Trump. Oligarchs. But now the whole world is forced into a recession. And pretty soon the world will rebel against America financially. Unitedly, they will rebel against America. And all this for one man's robbing, greed, mongering, enriching himself to the Treasury Department with NFT cards of himself? Now he's scared about Epstein, partying with Epstein coming out. That scares him. What should scare every American is that we're becoming bankrupt behind this spectacle of him robbing his way through success with his art of the financing. That is it's basically a racketeering financial criminal organization. A racketeering embezzlement, insider trading, extortionist. And he's bankrupting this nation and a lot of nations abroad with his greed. And that cannot be left unchecked.